Hello, White Sox fans. My name is Brett Ballantini, hosting yet another Sox Pregame podcast. I say yet another as if there's been so much anticipation for games in the White Sox universe that we've done these a lot of times. Well, I told you the number. It's 9. So that tells you how many key, compelling games we've covered since really regularly doing these podcasts. So that works out to maybe one or two or three a year. Not great, but what would you expect? We are a 100-loss team. Looking like that might be a little bit shy of this year's total. I know optimism starts to build as the season gets closer, even as the snow forecasts come encroaching. But we saw that roster tweeted out today, and boy, no matter how hard you squint, gosh, it's hard not to see triple-digit losses, but we'll talk about that a little bit. We covered that in our prior podcast over on the Mothership, talking predictions, but we cannot help but address that a little bit here as just it could be minutes. I'm not sure why you're watching this podcast minutes before the game. Come on. Mere hours away from an exciting home opener in March. Detroit Tigers coming to town, ballyhooed by some of us who think they might be the division winner this year in another lousy AL Central, coming to town to, I don't know, ruin the White Sox optimism for 2024, whatever it is. Hey, I am joined with two of my very best friends in the entire planet. It's Malachi Hayes and Melissa Sage-Bollenbach. Welcome to you both. The excitement, I mean, I'm appearing really cool if you're watching on YouTube, but man, I got the shakes. I'm so excited about this opening day. It's been a long off season of sort of nothing and disappointment. We're finally here on opening day. And do you feel, well, how do you feel? Do you feel, is anticipatory depression over what's going to happen in 2024, or is there room for a little bit of sunshine?
Well, I mean, there's always, no matter how bad they're going to be, there's always that, little bit of butterflies on opening day just because it's spring and anything is possible. And so, yeah, for the first game, and then after we see it tomorrow, we see it all come crashing down. Yeah. We're going to be like, that's it, we're done. I mean, it's inevitable, but I always do get excited every year for opening day, just because, I mean, you have so many good memories associated with opening day, most of them freezing your butt off, but yeah. So I always feel excited about it, even though there's impending doom coming.
Yeah. Now, Melissa has the excuse. She's actually going to be driving south, farther and farther away from the greater Chicagoland area to be able to show up. Malachi, pre-air, discussed his inner turmoil, which really actually wasn't, but, about the legitimate question of going to the ball game or not. But, and I'm sure this factors into the answer, but Malachi, it's here. Are you ready for it?
Yeah, I mean, hey, I'm perfectly ready for it. There's levels. I mean, I can't actually go. So, if the team were more exciting, then no, I wouldn't be ready for it. Mm-hmm. But they're not. It's going to be a cold day, and they're not worth being. So I am ready for it, where I will be watching from the comfort of my job. So, it's always good to have baseball back at the end of the day, even when the team is bad. Mm-hmm. The only thing worse than having to deal with discourse around a bad team is dealing with discourse around a bad team concerning games that don't matter, or games that don't count, I should say. Yeah. So I'm always get to a point, like I think many players, where I'm just glad spring training is over and they actually start to mean something. And, I'm not one of those people that just can really binge spring training baseball. It doesn't count. They're not given 100%, et cetera, et cetera. Now everyone's full speed ahead. The race has begun, and that is fun at the end of the day.
I see Melissa taking notes carefully. Okay, now next year, don't cover as much spring training. Yeah, it's sage advice. I mean, somebody's got to do it, but it does get tiring because it's long. I mean, spring training is long. I mean, you got basically 2 weeks before even a game is played. Yeah, it's when you tack it onto the front of what is already a long season. But We're here for it. Hey, a year ago, well, okay, let's say about 364, well, let's say leap year, whatever it is. A year ago, we actually were surprised by a actually really strong performance in the home of the, what were they? Were they the defending champions? I don't care. Whatever, they're cheating. So, but I mean, a good team took it to them, punched them in the mouth. Dylan Cease, extraordinary start, and that I don't think that gave any of us false optimism. But is there any chance that the game today here will instill more confidence in this team than we have? Clearly, it will prove to be a mirage. But is there anything that could happen in today's opener that would maybe cause you to pause and say, okay, well, maybe this isn't going to be as bad as I'm thinking?
I think we could maybe see kind of a mirror image of what was, I believe, the 2021 opener in Detroit, where the Sox came out. I believe this is 2021. It might be 2022 if I'm getting my years mixed up. Either way, the Tigers were the underdogs. The Sox are the team that actually has reason to be excited for it to be opening day. And this was 2022 when Javi Baez walks us off at the very end of the game. I don't think anyone thought the Tigers were really going anywhere that year, but they were already, we were pretty neurotic about the Sox at that point. But there were even then some signs like, you know what? I don't know if I like what I'm seeing here. So with the roles kind of flipped a little bit here, and the Tigers supposedly on the upswing, I'm not entirely buying that for a few different reasons this year.
Yeah.
I wonder if we can kind of see something like that where, look, even the Sox could win 10-2 on opening day, and it won't mean anything to the White Sox, but it might, Tarek. They can come out and shell Tarek Skubal. That'll put a damper in a lot of people's Cy Young predictions.
Yeah, that's true, because we saw a couple of them. How about that? Remember how torturous that whole season was? I mean, all of us, even I was trying to be grizzled and cynical as I could be, but even I was like, okay, it's July, they're 5 evens or 500, but the division, nobody's run away. They're going to turn out, Tony La Russa is the manager. They're going to turn it on. And I don't think I really thought that, but I can look back and say, a lot of us were still thinking, geez, it's still there for the taking. And yeah, that started with, game one, like, punch in the gut, but well, all right, they're 0-1. Okay. They're one game out. Big deal. Melissa, anything happening tomorrow or later on today that could I don't know, shake things up for you?
I have zero expectations that the offense is going to be able to do anything, but I might feel like a glimmer of hope or encouragement if Crochet comes out and pitches a really solid 5, and then the bullpen goes and Leisure goes and Kopech. And if that looks really good, you're like, oh, well, maybe our pitching could keep us close enough that we might win a few more than we won last year, even though, maybe we'll win some of the 2-1, 3-2 kind of things, because it's just really going to struggle to score runs. But so if I see good pitching tomorrow, and not just by one person, but the whole package, I might get a little excited.
Yeah. Point of order. Tomorrow is an off day. I'm going to, if anybody wants to catch me on the fact that it's like, hey, wait a minute, could you be recording this in advance of opening day break? No, what I was referring to is what could happen tomorrow is the White Sox could acquire a real major league player to bolster the roster. During the off day, they got nothing else to do. He wants to make moves, right? He's collecting the 4A guys. He might actually acquire a real player to bolster the team during the off day and then head into the rest of that series and maybe take the series from Detroit after probably what will be a disheartening loss later today here on open day. So just again, to correct that, no letters to the editor on me and my sense of mishap timing. Malachi, Melissa just raised Crochet. There's a lot that can be discussed, regarding Crochet and the fact that he is the opening day starter. He's a guy who basically hasn't started consistently since high school, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He clearly does have actual stuff. I don't think it's an argument to say it would probably be the best stuff on the roster, certainly among the rotation. Maybe Soroka can make a claim. I don't know. But where are you? You're a guy who analyzes so well for us. I know that you've got to have some thoughts on just this whole process that he is our opening day starter. We've discussed, you and I, and among our staff so many times about what was done with Michael Kopech, and this makes Michael Kopech seem like Nolan Ryan. It's going to be an interesting season with him leading it all off, and unless they just put him in the penalty box or in timeout for like 3 months in the middle of the season, we're destined to have some weirdness, I think, happening with our number one opening day starter. Thoughts on Crochet just broadly enough, much less for opening day?
Yeah, man. I mean, I've been on the record for a few years now as having wanted him to start. I think they should have sent him straight back down to the minors in 2021, not even messed around with trying to do especially when it became clear they weren't actually going to do the Chris Sale thing and they were probably just going to leave him in the bullpen moving forward. At this point, I'm cool with it because there's nothing left to lose. He's actually only a couple of years away from free agency at this point. He does still with, Dylan Cease in San Diego and everything, the rotation of a few years ago, more or less down the drain. Yeah, his arm has the most upside of anybody in there right now. The stuff, it wasn't just because he came up throwing 102 miles an hour. That was great, but the pitch, the underlying stuff, the underlying metrics, the spin data and all that fancy stuff on his fastball and his slider were excellent. Those are two fantastic pitches, and it does seem like he is, for the first time in a couple of years, healthy. He wasn't healthy for a lot of 2021. He certainly wasn't healthy for most of 2022 or 2023, obviously. None of the 91 pitches that the Baseball Savant has tracked of his were actually tracked. We don't really have exact velocity data or anything, but from what the stadium guns say, he's back up in the high 90s. So look, is there anybody else in the Sox system near the major leagues who throws 97 from the left side with a wipeout slider and might be able to do it into the 5th or 6th inning? No, there isn't. So, you might as well see what you got with this one. And there's plenty of questions. Does he have a third pitch? God only knows. We probably should have found out 3 years ago. But is it too little, too late? Yes. But, there's a lot of things that we just never got to find out and we never got to see them try. So at the very least, I'm happy that we'll see if there's anything there, rather than having Garrett Crochet potentially just be another complete and total what if. Yeah.
Chicago White Sox baseball 2024, too little, too late. Indeed, that's a free one from Malachi Hayes. You can put it on your second printings, your third printings of the pocket schedule. White Sox, free. We're giving it to you. We know we know you're watching, and we love you for that. All right, I got questions about this team. We all got questions about this team. By the way, I decided to look it up because Garrett Crochet, top pick. Okay. So, there's not that there's no pedigree, not that the guy hasn't hit triple digits on the radar gun, came up and pitched a week in 2020 and had more 100-mile-an-hour pitches than anybody in the league in that short pandemic season. But I had to go back to 1988 and Ricky Horton to find a more sort of random, I don't mean to damn him by calling it nondescript, but let's say random opening day starter. And that's not to diss Ricky Horton either. He was a major leaguer. He pitched. He pitched in the major leagues. It is true. So anyhow, random trivia for you. Okay, wait. We saw because there's so much mystery, there's so much skullduggery surrounding the 26-player roster. It was released a whole day early, even though apparently there was going to be some strange gamesmanship with the Tigers, and Pedro was going to just keep it all under wraps because, Noah Schultz was going to be, the number 2 starter this year or something. But this roster is rough. And no amount of prepping yourself for how rough it is and knowing what the personnel is and knowing how little was done in the off season can really brace you for seeing that tweet of the roster and its god awfulness. You look at that infield and it does make me want to tear my hair out that this is a major league, well, on paper, a major league infield. Sorry to be so angry on opening day. I'm so excited about first pitch in just mere minutes. But here's something I'm confused about, and I know projection systems are, what they are. FanGraphs, I don't think any projection system is particularly generous to the White Sox, right? They're not supposed to be generous or mean to teams, right? They're supposed to not care. Even though clearly FanGraphs and Baseball Prospectus, hate our team, of course. But FanGraphs, Zips at least, have the White Sox at 67 and 95. and I get, Malachi's going to just laugh at me and break all this down, but Baseball Prospectus 66 and 96. And I mean, in theory, that does have our team being 6-7 games better than a year ago. And we know that not to be the case. Malachi, can you at least explain to me, why I'm seeing this and it's making me angry, or that perhaps if a less angrier fan would be given some hope there, like, wow, we're just a couple games worse than the Royals, or wow, if the right things click, we could be a 500 team. I mean, Chuck Garfien talks about the White Sox being a 500 team. Ozzie Guillen puts it in a correct perspective. And why am I mentioning Chuck Garfien and Ozzie Guillen on any podcast ever? Malachi, rescue me. Can you just explain to me a little about projections and why they look so much sunnier than reality? Or if you want to defend them because I don't recall what your pick was, maybe you can push back and say, hey, dummy, they are going to win 67.
Yeah, I think I could be wrong without knowing the total nuts and bolts of how these things work. But I think it's really hard to have players as disappointing as they've been with the upside that, say, Yoán Moncada and Eloy Jiménez and even a Michael Kopech and certainly a Luis Robert Jr. And even guys like, of course, Benintendi have had their years here and there. For a team, you look at the teams that get projected for 100, 101, 102 losses. Your Athletics and your Rockies, they've got no one who is even going to sniff Yoán Moncada's 2019 or match the fact that Eloy Jiménez, when healthy, and if he it generally hits for a lot of power and will probably hit 40 homers if anyone can ever get him to start putting the ball in the air a little bit more. So they I think are just as those systems are just as disgusted with the likes of Nicky Lopez and Paul DeJong as we are. But because there is a world we're talking about, there is a projected season somewhere out there in which Yoán Moncada 325 and Eloy Jiménez hits 40 homers.
Right. Okay.
And Eric Fetty is actually real.
Right.
That might be the 99th percentile outcome, but that's still better than anything you're going to get out of those 2 or 3 teams below them. And that's the difference between your 100 loss projection and your very sunny 95 loss projection.
Yeah. Okay. No, that makes plenty of sense.
So
okay. Yes.
There's some optimism baked into there, depending on how you feel about the players. So,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know it's not going to happen, but that it is theoretically possible could, whereas with the Rockies, it's like there really almost is no light at the end of the tunnel to see them that way. Okay, that actually does make sense. So thank you for that explanation. I feel considerably less dumb, but I'm sure I will feel that again very soon. Melissa, actually, Malachi, I did look it up, 64 wins. Which makes you the sunniest of the 3 here of us on opening day. Melissa, you were 61, 62?
62.
Okay, yep. 62. I don't even know what the wins are. I think I said 108 losses. What does that make it? 54? 54 wins. So I'm even though I understand what Malcolm just said, I'm pretending it doesn't exist and there's no universe where Eloy Jiménez hits 40 home runs. But what I thought, go ahead, please.
No, I did. What am I thinking? No, I only did 60 wins.
Oh, okay. Yeah. See, look, you're already being sunnier.
Yeah. I was like, wait a minute. That's not right.
And as antiseptic as projections are supposed to be, right? Again, not supposed to root for players. Zips, Luis Robert at 3.9 WAR, which I assume also presumes fairly decent health, which we do know is a stretch, but again, I'm sure that's baked in the model. Which doesn't make him as good as last year, of course. Doesn't even make him quite all-star level, but that is by far the best player on the White Sox, at least as Zips has seen it. The only other player regarded to be, and I know again this is probably baked in the system where it's just like not legit and like 100 players get projections. So I understand that some of this just might not be fair to pick on, and I'm not picking on it. I'm stunned and shocked and disheartened by it. Drew Thorpe is the only other player who is predicted to be via Zips, even a major league starter and I don't mean starter, like starter level quality WAR at 2.0. And I know, okay, who cares about WAR or whatever, but I mean, there are like no legitimate projected even average starters on this team.
That's insane. That's sad, but it's also, yeah.
And I mean, Malachi, feel free to grab my chin and point me in the more proper direction here, because I know I'm like doing some weird cherry pick thing here. But I mean, this is just, I guess what I'm trying to say, like using numbers to be impressive or something, is that this is such a mediocre team. This is sort of a stunningly mediocre team, especially given the fact that, forget the fact we're just coming out of, like, I don't know, a contention window or whatever that was. But I mean, and forget the fact they haven't officially called it a rebuild or whatever. Okay, well, we know what it is, but I mean. Again, coming sort of down out of this playoffs just a few years ago now, it feels worse than the build up to what might potentially be. I mean, I'm not sure there's anything disputing that, but I don't know. Can you take my pulse or something? I mean, you didn't get in on anything during our projections, podcast a couple of days ago, so. More thoughts on just how mediocre this roster is. Is there something encouraging or even more discouraging about what the White Sox have done in this offseason compared to prior ones?
I suppose it's encouraging in the sense that you don't know if you're falling up and down or up or down after a long time of being very, very sure you were falling down. I mean, as I've said before, I think on this podcast, I can squint and sort of see a vision of what Getz and his team are putting together. And it intrigues me more than the vision that we saw the last few years from Ken Williams and Rick Hahn.
Yeah.
So that being said, we haven't even reached the point where we know what we might even be able to be excited about. A year from now, maybe we'll have a couple breakouts on our hands. Maybe Colson Montgomery will be in the show. Maybe Nick Mastrini will be coming off a rookie year with 20 solid starts off his belt. Now we've got none of that. We've got, is Eric Fetty for real? Is Garrett Crochet is he a starter? Is Michael Soroka, he's made 10 starts since 2019. I mean, these aren't just, there's an argument for why it's a competitive rotation if you're in Chris Getz's shoes and you want to, you have to sell that if it's your job to sell that. But it's not just that it's bleak, it's that we don't even know where to put the hope that we naturally want to have and that should have a place within the fandom. Is it, again, Michael Soroka? Is it Eric Fetty? It's particularly unexciting this year, and it's unexciting even in some of the best of times around here. That's what I have to say about it.
Yeah, I think what bruises my jaw a little bit, Malachi, is that okay, we know the roster. Obviously, I'm poking fun at the roster and the tweet and all that, of course, and we can all nod our heads and say, like, wow, this is a really lousy roster. And the system, on the pipeline, we're probably like smack in the middle or so. Maybe we're even like middling plus, maybe like lower team. I don't really know what the latest number is. I thought it was like 17, 18. Maybe it's moved up some. But I mean, with this roster, and I mean, they have no sure things. It seems like there's a couple pretty close to sure things. They have no sure things. So the fact that this isn't a system, I mean, for example, the Cubs system is ranked better than ours, and the Cubs are also projected to be a playoff team. And I hate the fact that I said that on a podcast, but it just feels like there would be more. I think it gets to what you're saying. I'm saying it much sloppier. It's that there would be some concrete hope of, okay, we got 5 guys and we know it. And I know you can't really ever say that, but if you have 25 guys, it's pretty easy to say, well, 5 of those guys are going to, they are going to be stars in this league in a couple of years. I think that's roughly how the numbers work. The White Sox don't have 25 guys. And so I think it's a little disheartening that the system, even with all the imported talent, is still like, yeah, and I know system rankings, who cares? But I mean, it does take the temperature of how the team is doing and gathering talent. So it makes it particularly frustrating that we still don't even have much of a system, that the teams in the system lose like habitually. And I know who cares about wins and losses among minor league teams, but I think I'd rather have wins than losses. So I think that's what really punches me in the gut over this, is that what you're supposed to be looking to, while you have to just like look at your watch while let's see, Antioch's own Paul DeYoung is playing shortstop for this team, I don't know. Should I be looking at my watch? Because I'm not sure I'm going to be excited about what's coming. That's a bad position to choose, but I mean, it's tough. It's bleak. And boy, this is a hell of a pregame podcast. Boy, I can't wait till opening day.
I will say, and I've been talking a bit, so I'll shut up after this. But I will say, I just went and looked back at the opening day lineup from 2017.
Okay.
Of course, the first year after after we decided to no longer be mired in mediocrity.
All right. What's your ears?
And I actually don't know if the names that we're going to be running out there later today are actually any worse than Jacob May was in the starting lineup. Cody Ashe was the DH. We had Tyler Saladino was at second base. We had Melky Cabrera and Todd Frazier in there, knowing full well they were going to be gone in 2-3 months and probably weren't going to get much for them.
Yeah.
I don't, is this very, very depressing? Yes. I actually, and now the issue, of course, is we don't have the number one prospect in baseball 2-3 months away from the majors like we did with Yoán Moncada. And, Giolito not far behind him at that point. We don't have that now. But, it's not like I don't think it's not the most depressed we've ever been necessarily. I'm not even trying to Jacob May, man. That dude was really bad at hitting. That dude had the Carlos May legacy spot locked up for a week and then was gone. I mean, Braden Shoemake isn't going to be around all of that long, but I can't say I'm any more embarrassed about this iteration of the opening day lineup than I have about any pick one of the last 15 out of a hat, frankly.
Here's another one, White Sox, free. Not the worst it's ever been. Chicago White Sox baseball 2024. It's not the worst it's ever been. Melissa, can you sprinkle something into this discussion before we take our break?
Just as you guys were talking about, with the vision or what are we supposed to be excited about? The image came to my mind of remember when you were little kids and you had those kaleidoscope things that you looked through and you turned it and it was all these different colors and you didn't really know what you're looking at. That's what I feel like when we're talking about this team. It's you don't, I mean, Soroka, Malachi was talking about him and it could be really exciting to see him do well, but well, I mean, he'll be gone. If he does do well, he's going to be gone. So can't really get too excited about him. So I just don't know where to put my optimism either in my little kaleidoscope as the colors are all going. Ah!
Yep.
So.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. I have a speed round question for the two of you, even if the answers maybe are foregone conclusions. We're going to take a minute or two break. Come on back to us. I promise we'll start up talking the White Sox as we get closer to opening day in the second half. If we don't, okay, I lied, and you can be angry and maybe skip a podcast. No, skip our next pregame podcast. So then I'll see you in 2026 and 2020 instead of 2025. That's cool. All right, hold on a minute. We'll be back and maybe we'll up talk. White Sox fans, it is pregame podcast number 9. Again, to repeat, that means just 9 games worth getting really, really excited about. And that doesn't even count last year because we did one for the home opener and the road opener. This year we're opening at home, so it's like a 2-for-1. And if there's any season to do a 2-for-1 and get them out of the way and have to listen to these clowns on Southside Sox talking about the White Sox and not up talking enough for my liking, well, it would be a year like this. So thank you, White Sox or schedule makers. That's awesome. Okay, speed round because we're talking a little bit about reference made to Moncada. Talk about Eloy, and Eloy was this hasn't been revealed yet, but the Southside Sox Cactus League MVP. I mean, it's sort of a given. There weren't too many contenders there. So maybe on the upswing, providing he's not playing so much outfield or he's not deciding to get caught in the fishing nets or anything like that. Okay. Eloy has a considerably smaller, I want to say upwards of 10 million less of an option for 2025. Yoán's is 20 plus, 2025. It's onerous to the point where there's really probably no way the White Sox pick it up. But thoughts on if these two have all-star years, if these two have years, let's say somewhat comparable to a 5-WAR Luis Robert Jr., of 2023. Do both of these guys come back? Do neither come back? Are the White Sox going to just shed? Even Eloy's, I think, would be pretty reasonable to snag if he actually does have that healthy year in that 30, not to mention 40 homer year. But thoughts on either one of them coming back, or are they just playing for the other 29 teams this year because the Sox are going to say no way?
I think Moncada is playing for the other 29 teams. The vibe I get just seems to me that if they could have found anybody to take him at any point in these last couple of years, he would have been on the road and on his way out of Chicago. Now, obviously, I'm not in the clubhouse. I don't know if he is a personality issue or what have you, but just the vibe that's put out there is that when the end of this year comes, the end of his run in Chicago is also done. Now, Eloy, I feel like, especially because his option is a little more reasonable, and he is like a fan. I mean, even though he's been disappointing, I still feel like fans get behind Eloy. I feel like they, still buy into the shtick. And I feel like kids like him, he's a goofy kind of guy and he's always smiling. And
he's the big baby, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And so I feel like nobody's trying to run Eloy out of town. And so I think that he has a pretty good chance of sticking around, but Yo-Yo, I think, is bye-bye.
Yeah.
I think the answer to that question in both cases, although I do think all the other things being equal, I think Melissa is right. I think the difference in the size of the options makes Eloy a bit more likely to return in any case. But I think the answer to that really depends on how some other players perform and what the outlook on the team is this time next year. If some players like, again, Colson Montgomery and who is starting the year in AAA somewhat surprisingly, and if Drew Thorpe looks to be the real deal once again, and Nick Nastrini looks as good as he did this spring, and some of those prospects that we were hoping, Edgar Caro among them, if those new additions to the top 10 and top 15 in the farm system, most of those guys are pretty close to the majors. If they kind of continue an upward trajectory, then I can see a scenario where entering next offseason, Getz has some motivation to try to prove actually we were being serious. This is really going to be a quick turnaround type thing. Then it makes sense to pull them back. If not, they're totally gone. So if we're, I think if we're talking about a situation where there is justification to even make some kind of attempt at doing something next year, they'll probably take that. But let's hope it's not borderline enough in one way or another to make them try something when they shouldn't.
Yeah, and let's not overlook direct position competition in a sense. Brian Ramos is starting again, sort of somewhat surprisingly to me, in Birmingham. He puts together a healthy year, which again would make him unlike Moncada, and a solid year, like we probably have some confidence he'd have. That obviously only would push someone like Yoán to be expendable, no matter how much Chris Getz wants to, on behalf of his big brother Rick Hahn, say, "See, look, I told you, Yoán was going to do it." Yoán really turns out to be like, not nearly the biggest, but quite a big, probably for this decade, quite a big what if, based on pandemic, his COVID. Even though he still played very valiantly through that season. I think he only missed 5 of 60 games, even though, they were like doing close-ups on him in the dugout, being gassed, running around the bases. The guy clearly was laboring and still put together a season. Talk about, to me, it really is a what if, because when you lined up all of these guys, maybe even including Luis, I don't know, but certainly next to Eloy or Kopech or anything, man, Yoán really seemed to be the guy that was like, this is going to be the guy who could put this team on his back and be sort of the leader and centerpiece. Romper aside, he was inspirational in terms of fashion and music, but also with his play on the field, to really sort of be like the heartbeat of this team. And I think when he first came up that first year or so, I know his first year wasn't great, next year was, I mean, he really seemed to be proving that, and then pandemic and really nothing was the same. I mean, I'm sorry, I was supposed to be up talking in this portion of the podcast, but it's not really an up talking type of season. What else we got to talk about here? Malachi, you missed our sort of our prognostication podcast a couple of days ago. Is there something about this season, even if it goes beyond? I mean, this is countdown to opening day, not just White Sox opening day. Because like God, there's 29 other teams. Because maybe we can actually divert our attention to a couple other teams or our favorite National League team or whatever it is. Stuff about the season coming up. Concentrate to the White Sox or not. That you think is going to be a trend or something interesting or a breakout season, something you would have shared with us a couple days ago?
I think Jordan Leisure is the truth as far as relief pitchers go. I think the stuff we saw in spring training is legit. I think he's following the Gregory Santos route and is probably going to be pretty. If I had to wager, I would say he's going to be pretty snugly in. I know Pedro says he doesn't believe in a closer. We go by leverage, whatever it is. Saves are going to be few and far between, and I have a feeling he's going to be getting the ball for most of those situations by the time the year is halfway over.
Yeah, when you looked at the numbers from that trade, I'm not smart, but I mean, his numbers seemed. I mean, even though he at that point I think had only been a Double-A pitcher. There really did seem to be something there, and you knew they were going to throw him into AAA, and he took a couple lumps, but I mean, he held his ground, pitched well. He pitched in the fall league, pitched well in the fall league, was a fall star, whatever that means, and then in spring, it's like it is so nice to see. I know I've talked about this before, just to see, like, say it's Colson, a guy come to the majors, even to the degree that Tim Anderson did, and Tim Anderson did not per se burn up the league when he came up, although I do think he put a couple wins in his pocket, basically playing half the season, 2/3 of the season. I just want to see somebody, and even if it is a bullpen arm, I just want to see somebody hit the ground running for the White Sox like, I belong here. And it seems like it's been really forever since we've seen that. And even if it's just Jordan, just a bullpen, a little leverage bullpen arm, man, I'll take it. I'm not going to be picky. I just want to see a guy who's not going to have a couple good, Santos is probably a pretty good example from last year, but he's still in the shadow of Liam Hendricks, apparently chronically napping, whatever all that's about. But I mean, it'd just be nice to see one or two of these guys just I belong here, because that would really, here comes the off-talking part, that would really start to build a little bit of sunshine for 2025 or even later this season. And I don't think it's beyond the realm. The system, as much as I'm saying, seems sort of middling. Well, okay, middling still means, all right, it's better than half. Let's get some of these guys, really cranking. Man, we just so desperately need that. And it's like, it feels like a long time since we've had that. And that's sad. I don't want to be sad anymore. There you go. There's another tagline for your pocket schedule, White Sox. I just don't want to be sad anymore. Melissa, I know you've been sort of hyped. I think you even picked him as your not just rookie for this year, but also pitcher of the year for the White Sox. So obviously what you've been seeing, paying a lot of attention to spring training, like Malachi, has got you pretty hyped.
Yeah, I was like nodding my head this whole time because out of anybody, he's who I'm most excited to watch this year, because I kind of dug into his stats a little bit before the podcast, and his numbers were not great before he came to the White Sox, but then did well in the fall league and did well in spring training. So I'm wondering if something with Bannister happened, once they got together and tweaked a few things or something. So yeah, I'm just kind of dreaming there, but maybe there's something positive to pull out of that as well. But I just really, not only he doesn't walk guys either. I'm like, woohoo! We need people who just don't give up free passes. So, if he just goes out there and does what he can do, and I think it's going to be really exciting to watch him grow into a really key bullpen piece. So
I want to know from both of you, I have a clue from Malachi because I see his pitcher MVP. I have my pitcher MVP. So I guess this would have to be my answer. I guess, Melissa, I need to know what your answer is going to be. But first, I'll ask Malachi to justify Drew Thorpe as the pitcher MVP. I want to know who the best starter this year is going to be. I presume Malachi is seeing Drew being called up pretty quickly, or at least, let's say, half the season and getting some really great starts in. I'm going Soroka. I'll let Malachi explain why Drew Thorpe is going to be the pitcher MVP for the White Sox.
Yeah, it's mostly that I'm just not seeing it from Eric Fetty. Crochet I don't think is gonna wind up throwing enough innings and to be in the conversation. Maybe if Michael Soroka pitches well enough to be in the conversation. Again, he'll probably be gone at the trade deadline, so maybe that'll count.
That's true.
I do like Drew Thorpe a lot. I think to myself, if there's a scenario where he comes up, a third halfway through the season, makes 15, maybe 20 starts with like a low mid threes ERA, which I think he's capable of doing as a rookie, maybe even better. He could run shit when he comes up. He's got, he was the minor league pitcher of the year last year. There is a lot, I think a little bit more talent there than he actually is getting a little bit credit for because of his fastball velocity. So do I think anybody... Put it this way, I don't know if there's anybody else in the organization who I think could they give me 20 starts of like a 3.30 to 3.50 ERA. Think about like what Jose Quintana first did when he kind of came up straight from Double-A and steadied that rotation out and was it was a very different team. But that kind of performance might really, if he does that, is anybody else in that rotation going to do better? I don't think so. So.
Yeah,
I'll stake my claim there.
Okay. Well, I just chose Soroka because it's like, all right, he seems. I'm like projecting that he's going to be healthy, but you raised a good point, Malik. If he's healthy, and Melissa said it too, he's gone. So like, bad pick, Brett. Wait, I can still change it. Opening day hasn't come yet. I'm sorry. It's
we'll see what kind of concept he brings back if he's in the conversation.
Yeah.
We're holistic judges.
Yeah. Melissa, so you chose Jordan Leisure as your pitcher MVP. So who are you thinking is going to be the cornerstone of the 2024 White Sox rotation?
I know, that's why I picked him.
Yeah, right, exactly. You opted out. Yeah, okay. Pass.
I kind of pulled a crystal there when I was like,
yeah, you did. None.
Anybody.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with the bullpen guy.
All right.
I mean, but if you like push me against a wall, Brett, and you like make me say it, gosh, I don't. I don't.
Can't opt out. All right.
Yeah, everything that you and Malachi both said, I'm like, like you can't pick Crochet because he's not going to pitch enough innings. Soroka does well; he's going to hit the road. I don't think Fetty's got it in him, and so like that leaves nobody.
Yep.
So.
There was a part of me that wanted to, given the lack of excitement about everyone else, that really pondered the idea of going with Nick Nastrini, and then that was just a little too ridiculous even for my optimistic ass.
Yeah,
I'm going to go there. I'm going to go Thorpe.
Oh, well, is Flexen going to be? Do we think he's going to be in the starting rotation? Is there any chance? I don't know.
I know Flexen is going to be the pitcher that I'm going to be like, he's going to start every single game I go to. I just know it.
Yeah. Lucky you. He will be your equivalent of Hector Noesi for me, yes. And let's make it clear, the 2024 White Sox are not worth pushing anyone up against the wall over, so we are definitely never going to take it to fisticuffs about who is the best pitcher on the Chicago White Sox, because the truth is, let's just get behind Crystal. The answer is none of the above. Sorry even to Jordan Leisure there. All right, I got one more question for you. It's another strangely esoteric one that probably will not involve up talking, but I'm sorry. Listen, opening day's still coming. There's going to be pomp and circumstance. We're going to do a flyover or fireworks or, that weird, crazy, like big milkshake that, is probably definitely going to not, if it doesn't give you brain freeze, it'll give you a heart freeze. So just be careful. Consume that with caution. So there's enough fun stuff happening just, mere moments, mere hours away. I want to know, and this is a weird one, because there was some hype, at least I wanted to feel the hype, with Dominic Fletcher being acquired. And it's sort of like, okay, wait, this is a guy who might be able to do it. And it's not to say he won't be able to do it. He had a bad spring, but okay, I mean, probably both of you are nodding. Yeah, he's not going to be able to do it. But okay, what I want to know, because though he's not starting today, he will, I guess, get the lion's share of starts, say from, I don't know if this is going to be an Oscar Colas situation. He's going to get the lion's share of starts for, let's say, at least a month before Pedro gets upset and, I don't know, sends him down. I want to know where the right fielder, the next White Sox right fielder is. The right fielder of the future, right fielder who's going to be playing in right field for the White Sox for a while. Is that player at single A? Is he at double A? Is he at triple A? Is he on the roster now? Or is he in parts yet to be discovered, because he'll have to be imported via free agency or trade, or perhaps, I hate to say this, I'm supposed to be up talking, perhaps that player hasn't even been born yet. I want to know where you think that next right fielder is. This is sort of a weird way to ask about how real Dominic Fletcher might be, but where is our next right fielder playing right now?
Not in the White Sox organization.
Okay.
Okay. I would like them to go there with their next big trade or with their first round pick here.
Mm-hmm. That's a wise choice. It's sort of like taking the field. I mean, that is the easy money there, but I mean, it's also quite astute and the product of watching this team far too closely for far too many years. So,
sold on Zach Deloach.
Melissa, where is that right fielder?
Yeah, I'm like searching my brain for like the prospects and stuff that we covered this off season, and I'm like, I don't feel like overly super excited about or hopeful about really anybody in the system. I mean, and when is like the last time we truly developed a good like corner outfielder? Like, is that like, I don't know. Who is it? It's been so long that I feel like it's not anywhere in the system. I think it's going to have to be either we're going to have to draft somebody or we're going to have to trade for somebody, because I don't know, Brett, is there somebody that we covered from prospects? I'm blanking kind of.
I got one, but my first, I was going to blurt out Harold Baines, but then I did forget. Sorry, Maglio. I know we've had a loving relationship, but I would say Maglio. But yeah, that's still too many decades ago. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to toe the company line, because the White Sox know I'm a company man. I'm in their pocket, and I'm going to say it's. I'm so confident in him. I'm not even certain how to pronounce his last name, but I'm saying it's George Welko. So it's him. He's the $1 million guy. He's really tall, and so yes, it's George. I'm Team George.
Left-handed.
Those are the next words. Those are the next words out of my mouth. It would be really cool to live in the universe where George Welko is Lions Township Aaron Judge. Actually,
sure. We could have Antioch's very own at shortstop. We could have Naperville at second base, for sure. Yeah. Because the Chicago area is a hotbed, so that's a good way to do it. Okay, yeah, all right. Well, I guess the answer is that maybe. I mean, what's realistic for Dom Fletcher this year? I mean, is he really going to get? Is he going to end up playing his way into? Not because Pedro's got a bug up his butt, but just because he just doesn't perform. Is he going to be more or less the Colas this year? Or do we think we can get at least a little bit more out of the position with him playing it?
I think the thing to remember with him is that he is a 5'6" white dude who is the grindiest of all grinders, and the brother of David Fletcher, who is the most David Eckstein player since David Eckstein. So, he's going to get his chances, is what I'm saying. I don't know if he'll play his way into them, but I think he's going to get his chances as long as Pedro is running the show.
Sounds to me like his IQ is pretty high. It really sounds to me like that IQ is through the roof. So, let's just come out and say it. Melissa, do you have any more hope for Dom?
So is he kind of like a shorter version of Aaron Rowan then? If he's like a grindy short dude? I mean, that could be a nice surprise if he does end up kind of being a grindy little fiery dude. But I mean, we just saw so little of him. I mean, at the end of last season, obviously he did really well for the Diamondbacks, but spring training he didn't do well for us. So, but that doesn't really mean anything. But yeah, I mean that would be super fun. It'd be a nice surprise for the season if he ended up kind of grinding his way to take over the spot.
I'm searching frantically, and FanGraphs isn't giving it to me. Baseball Prospectus isn't given to me. Baseball Reference isn't given it to me. I'm trying to look for the metric that involves somehow crashing into the wall, because I think if his number there is okay, then the Rowan comp might be okay. And also, we know he must be Bear fan. So I think that seemed like a stretch when you said it, but I might talk myself into his Rowan-diness based on some of those key factors. If he's got like a 34 jersey in his closet somewhere, yeah, I mean, we may have Rowan here, so I'm starting to get a little bit more. Sorry, George, you're not the right fielder guy. It's going to be Dom. Let's wind this up. Yeah, I know you guys are really tired, and thank you for everyone still listening, because, again, first pitch, like a couple minutes away. I do want to know, let's up-talk this a bit. I think we've probably addressed it before, but I don't know. I've forgotten everybody's stories. I would like to know what your favorite opening day story is.
We just lost Malachi.
Yeah, Malachi's like, I don't have a favorite opening day story. I've hated every opening day I've ever been to. They've always been cold, and so I'm out of here, which is fine. He may come back, but I guess that gives you the floor. Following up on your Rowan-diness of Dom Fletcher, what's a favorite or two?
So back in like the early 2000s, so when there used to be like message boards on the White Sox website, so it was like pre-Twitter. That's how you met other Sox fans, right? And so there was a big group of us that used to get together every opening day, and our friend Dan did this huge tailgate. I mean, just like the ribs and shrimp. It was just really, really fun. And so back before you could, tweet and get to know people, you like messaged them, and then you met them in person, and it was really cool. And so those are some of my favorite memories, just connecting with fans. And then I had one when I was a kid back at Old Comiskey. It was freezing, and I think it was like 32 and snowing, but it was still Old Comiskey, and we won. And so, yeah, I can't remember the exact details of it, but it was cold and we won.
In 1982, I want to say the first week of the season was canceled because of snow everywhere. I think that's also the year Sox started out like 7-0, 8-0, 10-0, something sort of nuts like that. But I do remember the 1 year snow really, really impacted everywhere, because I think they got snowed out of New York. So I'm not saying because it snowed that would have been 82, but I mean, when you talk about snow, that makes me think of that. Aside from the very first game in Toronto, I do remember coming home from school and watching that on TV and seeing it snowing in Toronto for opening day and thinking, wow, this is a new world.
The lady behind me broke her hand, so I had my glove, and of course a foul ball came at me, and I did this, and it went off the top of my glove, and it smacked her because it was so cold. It smacked her in the hand, and pop, she broke her hand.
Wow.
So, yeah.
And then you got a bill 6 weeks later for deflecting the ball into her broken hand. Jeez, that memory turns sour.
Well, I didn't break my hand.
Yeah, that's true. That's more foul balls for you. All right, no sweat.
Who's going to blame the little 12-year-old or whatever? Be like,
that's true. That's true. You're just excited. Now I'm gonna have to follow up now. For all the games you've been to, at whatever age, have you caught a foul ball or a home run? I mean, not batting practice sort of doesn't count. I mean, it's still a ball. But have you, in a game? I mean, seeing as how one glanced off of you, have you caught a foul ball or a home run in a game?
No, I also booted Carlos Quentin grand slam.
I do. We have the photographic evidence of that. You've been kind enough to share that. So
nope. So I've never got it. That was as close as I came.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, my favorite opening day. I don't know that I've been to many opening days, honestly. I did go in 2006. I took my sister. She was late. It was stressful. I'm good with late. Although I'm sure I was probably planning on starting 4 hours early. So I mean, okay, fine. But And then, I mean, this is going to end up me just like dogging my sister, but you know, if shoes fit, wear them. Yeah, she spent most of the game. I think it was rain delay. You know, of course, the White Sox did end up winning in a thrilling fashion. Jim Thome, a new acquisition. I don't think he had not a game-winning homer, but had a big homer against his former Cleveland team. Huge rain delay. I think it was an ESPN game because, you know, White Sox are coming off of a championship. So it's sort of neat to be there first game after the World Series. But yeah, my sister spent most of the time like smoking in the concourse, and I was like, okay, well, who am I with? You know, and it was raining, so there, I mean, it was a night game, or it turned into a night game because, you know, there was so much delay. So yeah, it was sort of a strangely satisfying, but also a little bit lonely. We did eventually, when she decided that maybe she had smoked enough for the game. Hey, you know, Beth, get in touch if you want. We you know, because there's no seats, right? I mean, nobody's in their seats, so we did end up like creeping like 5-10 rows behind, I think, the visitor dugout. So we had a really nice vantage point for that Thome home run. So that was sort of cool. I mean, we weren't going to leave. If I was there with my dad, we'd have left in like the third inning because like, I got had enough of this. You know, I hate baseball, but then I love it, and I hate it. I love it. Yeah, family dynamics. See, this is good. This is not up talking, but, you know, I get to unload on some of my wonderful Ballantini family dynamics. And if that's not what opening day is for, what is it, Melissa? That's the one. Yeah.
Did do the ring ceremony was opening day?
I think so. I mean, they definitely did a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was part of it, which, you know, and I'm sure there was like a whole lot of stress because I imagine they knew what the radar was. So I'm sure they were like, okay, come on, can we pass these out fast or whatever? They may have actually, I mean, I don't remember. I probably went to all of those very first games because I was, you know, super fan and so hyped, and we had season ticket or whatever we had. So yeah, I might be getting confused. It could have been like the second day. It could have been like the Saturday game 2 day game or something where they handed out the rings. I seem to have a picture of it being very bright and sunny when that happened. So I don't know if that was just way early on that opening game, but it actually probably wasn't, because I think that was being pushed to at least a very late afternoon game. Gosh, it's all so jumbled, and it was just 20 years ago.
I know, when you're old, like we just kind of all go.
I was just going to say it, but then you know, I was going to like not say it, but you said it. Okay, well, all right, yeah, we are in the senior circuit of Southside Sox, so sorry to drag you down there, Melissa, but you brought it up. Yeah, I can't think of other opening. I mean, I've gone to other opening days, but I think I went to like 2009. That had to suck. I don't remember all the ones I've been to. It hasn't been too many, and whichever ones I ever actually like covered, it couldn't have been terribly notable. Cold. I know when you go that early, it's darn cold. So all of you, you know, bundle up, wear your mittens, even if it dampers think about this, wear the mittens. Don't worry about the effect it might have on your clapping, because there's not going to be much to clap for. So it's okay. You can punt clapping in the first series. It's going to be freezing. Well, stay warm. We have many of our Southside Sox brethren and sisterin, and probably a number of you readers and listeners who are probably like just pulling up to your gate right now as you're finishing up this podcast. So Brett, please stop the podcast so I can go into the game and enjoy it and get whatever my freebie is. So I will do that. Melissa, Malachi, wherever you have gone to in another dimension, Malachi, thank you for joining us. Melissa, of course, thank you. Stay tuned. Soon to come, Ladies Night, Volume 2, and other podcasts that we have safe travels, and come on back to us safely, and to like a 5-0 White Sox team. How about that?
Oh, yeah.
No, if they do that, you better stay wherever you are, because if they go 5-0 to start, you've moved to a new city. You've moved to a new city. So sorry about that. You know, I'll help you sell your place. Okay, we'll be back with a post-game podcast after this game. No matter what happens, in just mere hours, you'll hear me and some other people again. Again, this time Melissa will be in another dimension. She'll be seeking out her new home in a new town, because apparently we've just deemed the White Sox starting the season 5-0, which is like hardly ever happened. Anyway, we will be back with you in just a few hours for the postgame podcast to review whatever went wrong with this opening day game. But still, everybody listening, enjoy it. Have fun. It's another season. Welcome to it. We will suffer with you for all 162.